Hey, Bjorn. Well, welcome to our filmmakers. What are we calling this? Filmmakers commentary breakdown thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that I have always loved seeing, like all my favorite filmmakers and their commentaries and hearing their behind the scenes and just learning, I get to learn so much from getting to see how other people do what they do. So I thought it'd be fun to chat with you about how we put this together and what you were thinking and how we approached it and all that good stuff. So,
We
um,
we can look at all our mistakes.
yep, exactly. Exactly.
Good. All right. Why do we make short films? This is the question I've asked through this whole process, but because I think at the very start of this, I was like, dude, should I make a short film? Is that still the thing to do? But for me, I think it was in the end, it was a chance to kind of have total control over something, to be able to kind of have your voice, like with no client saying, do it this way, do it that way, don't make it so dark, or something like that. But then I guess the flip side of that is you don't have the resources. So you
Mm.
have control, but you don't have everything you want to be able to do it. So it's this compromise. But I don't know how you felt, but like I enjoyed the process, and it was a really valuable exercise, and was a whole heap of fun.
Yeah, I feel like, it was kind of like after doing a lot of, mostly commercial work, this felt like a really satisfying, meal that kept me full for quite some time after. Just like so fulfilling, so nourishing, and it's still really enjoyable to look back on, which, you can't say for everything that you make.
Yeah, and it's also exercising different muscles too. I think from what you do in the commercial space, or even
Yep.
our documentary work that we've done together, to be able to really lean into, I think, performance and a different kind of storytelling. I think for me that was super valuable. Just trying something different and having a different lens to look at how you want to tell a story.
Mm, absolutely. So I remember you sending me basically like a pitch deck for this, probably 3 years ago now.
Yeah, I think so. Yes. It was my. How can I get Bjorn to shoot my film?
Well, and basically I didn't even read it and I just said yes. And you're like, well, let me send you
Yeah,
the pitch deck anyways.
yeah. And actually, as I said to you the other day, I was looking through it the other day, and it's pretty much what we ended up with. The
Yeah.
film and the pitch deck are really quite close. So things obviously changed in the process of it, but yeah, it was quite cool to see that vision stayed very consistent
Mm.
throughout.
And one
Um,
of the biggest changes that I remember is when we first started talking, you had mentioned black and white and anamorphic. And the more that we started talking about it, it kind of seemed like we should go the opposite direction of color and kind of a, 3-2 look. Just because, like, we knew, I mean, one of the things that I know we talked about right from the beginning, like, we wanted to set ourselves up to win. And that looked like, what are the resources that we have and how can we deploy those in the most effective way? And for us, that meant, we didn't have these like huge, amazing locations that we've always had in the past on some of our
mm,
doc work. Um, we didn't have a huge production design team or anything like that, and so and we were mostly interiors, mostly like very kind of simple interiors, and really this film, it's all about portraiture, and so I think
mm.
moving towards a more sort of like portrait forward orientation kind of seemed like the right thing to do, and then actually ended up being real helpful to us when for the scenes that we ended up shooting two cameras because we could sneak that other over the shoulder just like right up next to them and not worry about that falling into the frame.
Mm. Yeah, and I think the other thing too, because this film, I really wanted to capture a particular feeling, which was sort of things that I remembered from my own childhood going through these experiences. And that idea of, you're stuck in this moment. And so, yeah, I think that was the other reason why we didn't want to move the camera, was just
Yep.
like, it's all about the performance, and it's about being stuck in these sort of quite claustrophobic moments where
Yeah.
people are trying to figure out what they think about things. And so that all sort of led into it. And then I think too, because a lot of on our documentary work, the camera's always moving,
Mm.
and
Hmm.
I think we just said, wouldn't it be cool just to not move the camera except very rare occasions?
Yeah.
And for me, too, the exercise for me was like for it all to live and die on performance, so that you're not kind of distracting with some shiny camera move here or there. It's actually about, are you engaged in the story? Are you engaged in what the actors are doing? So for me, that was sort of one of the rules I think we had. Like, we
Mm.
don't move the camera. There were a couple of times where it moves, but it's very sort of
Intentional.
motivated
Yeah, there was
and
like
very intentional.
we talked about that up front of like how do we set these rules and then find a few places to break them so that when the camera is moving, it feels really special.
Mm,
And then
yeah,
that was
yeah,
another too, like practical consideration. It's like, okay, do we take the limited resources that we have and do we put it into a dolly
mm.
or do we just literally just live on sticks the whole time?
And then obviously the house that we found was so small that you couldn't really do a
Yep.
dolly
Yep.
anyway. So the kind of decision was sort of made for us. Again, those sort of restrictions, but I think it worked. And I was really happy with the performances of the whole cast. They were brilliant, and I think leaning into the portraiture side of thing, they were so engaging. It had some really, really sort of interesting faces that I think you didn't need the camera to move. And then
No.
when it does move, it's kind of nice. Like there's a satisfying.
So speaking of gear, we shot this on my Alexa 35 and Signature Primes, and then we had Caleb Ware, who was our sort of second unit slash, B cam operator, and he brought his mini LF, so we basically had those for free. So that was a huge help.
Yes, friends with gear
Yeah.
is awesome.
And then Isabel put
um,
everything else together and pulled all the favors in the world, and yeah, I
yeah,
felt
no,
like we got it.
I have great memories from. I mean, hopefully everybody else does, but everybody else seemed pretty happy. But like everyone was into the project, and which was great, and particularly as a writer, and for people to connect with the script, and so that was always great. People thought, oh yeah, like I want to be involved in this, and everyone was very generous with what they brought to the project. So.
Mm. So you suggested getting an Airbnb for a couple days and just like basically, living and breathing the film as much as we could before we shot it.
Mm. Yeah, for me, that was really important because when you make a film, you get in this bubble, and I know that's how we've experienced when we've done a lot of our international documentary work. You get in this little world where the only thing that there exists is the film, and so we got this Airbnb that had a lot of rooms, and we did our prep there, but then also we brought the cast there, and we did sort of working with all the different cast members and talking about film, and so it was just a nice hub, and people would come and go, and then we would do makeup tests and hair and a few different things, so, and wardrobe, doing all the wardrobe tests. So it was actually nice to have this little production hub. Don't think the owner of the particularly knew what was going on, all these people coming and going all week. But I don't know, I found it like actually key to the success of the project for me,
Totally.
to get it in my head, and then working how we did with our photo boards. So maybe you want to talk about that.
Yeah, yeah. So we had on one wall, we had a bunch of just like inspo images. Nothing that was like, we're trying to recreate this frame, but it's like, here's the world that our film kind of exists in and had like both from like a compositionally, lighting wise, mood wise, all that stuff. But then on the other wall, we took all of our Artemis boards and laid them out by scene and had like the coverage for each scene. And then right next to it, the next scene and the next scene and the next scene. And so we had every single shot in the whole film laid out on this wall. And we would be constantly comparing the script to our photo boards and, where are we repeating ourselves? Where don't
Mm,
we have enough coverage? Where, do we have too much coverage? Are there scenes that can be cut? Just because, again, with short films, there's limited time, limited resources, and you want to make the most of everything. And so by basically having the entire film designed before we went out and shot it, and revisiting it every night during prep, and then
mm,
every night after the shoot, we would go and pull down what we shot, and we would say, okay. what do we have left and what did we learn today that tells us something about this next scene that we're shooting tomorrow, and how can
Mm.
we improve that or make it better or tighten things up because we know we won't have enough time in the schedule, or whatever it is. And then from there, um, I created like a little sort of production Bible to hand out to camera and lighting and to Paul. And it had like, on one page would be like the reference images that like the mood images, then it would be the photo boards that we created. And then on the next page yep, there's those shots. And then it would be, the lighting diagrams for those scenes. And I believe in one version I had camera positions for everything as well. So that was super helpful for everybody to be on the same page. The first AD had one, the gaffer had one, camera department had one. Like everybody should basically know exactly what it is that we're doing. And this, you can see it's a rather involved document. This took
It
a
just
lot of
goes on
time.
and on.
This took a lot of time to put
And
together.
I looked at it once and then I didn't look at it after that. But everybody else did, crew did. But I
It
think what was
was,
really useful, what was super useful was having the film up on the wall, so you
hmm,
could kind of see it from a sort of bird's eye view. And we weren't kind of like necessarily married to it. It was more just to go, here's a plan, and so that we know we can fall back on this if we
yeah.
need to. And we did follow it quite sort of specifically. And then I think when we got into midway through the shoot, we realized we didn't have enough time to shoot several scenes.
Hmm.
Well, then we had to start killing a few things. And that was really useful to go, okay, let's pull this out, pull this out. And then the very most rewarding thing was at the very end of the shoot, pulling it all down.
Yep,
was was
absolutely.
was but yeah, all of that prep I think is like having a plan so that you know that when you walk into it, you're not making it up as you go, but you're still open to spontaneity. And we were open to things that were happening on the
Yeah.
day, but just knowing what we were doing, and and trying to make that, you're always chasing time, and so everybody knowing ahead of schedule what we were trying to do really helped, I think.
Exactly. And working with our great gaffer, PJ, being able to hand over that kind of production Bible, because obviously he
Mm.
was on the scout and things like that. But if he had to go like pre-light something ahead, not only did he know where the fixtures went, he kind of knew what the tone was of everything. And so we could just honestly just keep referring back to that document. It did come in quite handy for us, I think, especially for the crew.
Yeah, yeah. Um, Yeah, and then what else? And then just I guess on the rehearsal side, on with the actors, we didn't rehearse scenes particularly, but we did talk a lot about characters and motivations, and there were things that we did when we had this production hub. I got, because they're supposed to be a family, so I got them cooking lunch, and so they sort of have this experience that they can draw from about what it is to be a real family. And then also, like, I made a whole lot of artifacts for the actors to use or
Mhm.
not use as they wanted. So Chris, I gave him there was the diagnosis letter of the mother, and also then the bill from the funeral home, and so there are all these things that they could use, and he had them in his pocket half the time. And there was a letter that I gave to Murren, which was about a deferment to her university. They were just all little real things that in the story that they could use, to be connected to that world. Things just sometimes have a little something in their pocket that would connect them to the what had just happened. And we did, working with children is often, you want to try and create this, rapport and an environment. And so we did a lot of Zoom calls where we did these quizzes, because Jack, who's an amazing actor, I think he was 10 or 11 at the time. So we did these online quizzes, and but they were on Harry Potter and Star Wars, so he always won. But it was just a really great way to connect, a child who has lots riding on him on this film, to be
Yeah.
able to connect with the rest of the cast, and create those bonds. So all of that work that we did in the lead up really helped, so that when you hit when you hit set, they weren't strangers. They actually already had these relationships. So that was super important to me, to get all that pre-work done, and then when what happens on set happens on set. But those relationships had already started to grow.
Yeah.
And I think you really felt that. on the screen.
Hmm. Cool. Speaking of the screen,
Uh,
should we get this party started?
yes, we should. We should. All right, how are we going to do this? Should we do the
All
three,
right.
two, one?
Yep. All right. Three.
I've killed.
Oh,
You count it down.
yeah. All right. I killed the. Yep. All right. And three, two, one.
I think I went a little bit early. Never mind. Right, so this introduction, mysterious. What are these shapes? What is this about?
So this was. I feel like this was one of the most rushed things we did in the whole shoot, to my recollection, because
Yeah.
Um, we actually had planned to shoot this at the end of one day, and I think that we ended up shooting the scene where he's playing the piano as the last scene, and we were supposed to shoot this after that, and we just realized
Mm.
that scene needed more time, and we had to kick this to the next morning before we started shooting. And I feel like we shot this for like 45 minutes in the garage before we were supposed to start shooting. I mean, we had much more elaborate plans in terms of like
Yes,
just some like foreground elements
and the
and
re
intentional compositions and
yeah, and the resets were hard because we were using this mixture that wasn't paint; it was made up of corn flour and things. And the resets and getting consistency right, we did it one time, it felt like slime, and it just stuck, and it didn't actually have
yeah,
enough. It didn't run enough, and then other times it was too thick, and so
yeah,
yeah. And I think we probably would have, if we had the money, have had a, like a robot head that, that's
exactly.
probably I think the vision we had, we just didn't have the resources for
Yeah.
it. But this scene here actually is the very first scene that was the spark for the whole script.
Mm.
But during COVID, I remember just thinking, oh, this kid, he's just throwing a ball, and then he has this encounter with a priest, and then I didn't really know what the rest of the story was, but
Mm.
that this was the initial idea of this awkward encounter between a kid and a priest who's trying his best, but has no idea how to speak to children.
Yeah. This was one of my favorite scenes to shoot. I think because we kind of picked quite a challenging location position to shoot them in where like, the only way to get light on them was to front light them. And so designing it in a way that like there's no lighting changes between any of these setups, we can just make them all work for each other. So there's an M40 out the window through half straw, creating that kind of projection. And then another M40 out the window with half blue bouncing to give that kind of like, blue soft fill. Um, and then there's another M40 out the door that's kind of edging out. You can see Father Frank's hand there to the left a little bit. Or maybe that was the light there. The dad, the kind of like soft push there coming from the left. And we also knew that we didn't have like time to do much coverage. So it's like, how do we design these scenes where we can basically like have a master and do as few shots as possible?
Yeah. And I think too, like we often the other sort of visual language we often have these high angle shots which was sort of like this omnipotent sort of eye of god kind of idea that in this one obviously from upstairs helped, but we did that quite a lot. And I think too, like this house gave us so much,
Mm.
although we didn't have like lots about exteriors. This house and that wallpaper,
And that
because
floor
our
too was amazing.
location and the floor that so our locations person, she went through all the real estate listings and was looking for houses that had sort of been deceased estates, and so she found this house, knocked on the door, and it was a young couple who had just bought it and they were about to gut everything and renovate it. We said, can you just wait sort of 5 or 6 weeks so we can do the shoot, and they did, which was great. But yeah, the house gave us so much.
Yeah. Yeah, here's another just sort of like from a lighting perspective. Again, like we kind of wanted to include that kind of like God's POV, the high angle shots looking down. And then all this is done quite simply. I mean, there's a bulb inside that Tiffany shade. I didn't want this lighting to look too pretty, but I also kind of liked I kind of like the hard light on their faces. And then there's just like a little dado hitting the table to kind of just give them a little extra lift because the bulb didn't quite punch down enough. And
Mm.
this is one of the few scenes that we did shoot two cameras for this coverage.
Yeah. The other thing was, never do a period film when you've got no money, but we decided to do it anyway. So little things we did, we had the little Bob Hawke clip on the screen, who was the Australian Prime Minister in the 80s. And then in the very background, you can hear it's all about the Chernobyl nuclear
Mm,
disaster. That's the audio that's happening. So it's just these little subtle nods to it being from a different era. But, I love the way this scene looks. I just
mm,
love the yellow and how kind of sickly it looks.
yep.
But it's great. And it's funny too. Like this scene was written slightly differently. It had a different beginning where the little boy had made a setting for the mum just sort of on autopilot, and then
Yeah.
the sister goes to take it away, and then the dad's like, "No, leave it." And you can see there's the empty chair, which I think you can still get it even though we cut that bit out of the scene. But
What would your mother say?
yeah, and Chris. I mean, they all did great.
I think
Chris
it's
is
also
such a
he did amazing. I think the other choice that you made here was you cut a lot of the dialogue and let her speak a lot more through what she doesn't say and just kind of her facial
yeah,
reactions. And I feel like that was a really nice choice.
yeah, yeah, and that was the thing. We cut out scenes and we cut out dialogue because we sort of found a lot of the emotion was coming through what wasn't said. It was the
Mm.
space between. So which I think happens a lot. But there's that wallpaper again.
There's the
Lovely.
wallpaper. And here's where we kind of introduce our like blue theme, where the blue kind of always represents the loss of his mother and grief. So whenever you really see blue in the film, that's kind of what it's speaking to.
Mm. And this was something from my own childhood. We used to have,
Mm.
cassette tapes of people talking. Like I would make
Mm.
tapes with my siblings, and you'd hear my parents' voice on them. So that's kind of where that came from. It was just
Yeah.
before video cameras and everything.
Yep.
And this was also, I don't know if what you were like, Bjorn, but I used to have collector cards and bubble gum.
Yep.
We had different things, and it's just a core memory from my childhood of collecting different cards.
Yep.
Um, yeah, our little Easter egg, that Paulie Otis on the right. That's my nickname from when I was a kid. That's what my siblings used to call me.
So here's one of the great
Uh,
inserts that Caleb grabbed for us. He was
yes.
running around getting a lot of good stuff for us while we were shooting kind of like the hero stuff.
Yep. Um, Finding a church for this film was really difficult. Finding a priest that would be down with what we were trying to do, throwing paint at a crucifix and everything. But this church and the priest were so amazing, really
Mm.
supportive of what we were trying to do, and could see what the story was about. So,
Yeah.
difficult place to light, though, right?
Well, it wasn't actually, it was one of my favorites. I mean, like this shot of our hero boy, like where he's in front light again, like in the last scene as well, like just trying to use a lot of front light to great effect in a way that is like cinematic. And I mean, this was definitely one of our biggest lighting setups. Like we have our M40 sun kind of ripping through that back there. And when we see it was our biggest setup, I think, for sure.
Mm.
But I'm quite pleased with how it turned out. Having to shoot time of day, like that's the real sun on the people in the background, which we couldn't quite control.
Mm.
But then we were able to kind of sweeten it up on our family.
And just an aside, Ron, who's played Father Frank, he went and he spent an afternoon with the priest because he wanted to get it right. He's not the most religious man, but he had to learn the ropes of how to be a priest. So he
Yeah.
really threw himself into it. And the bells scenario that happened too when I was a kid. I kind of
Mm.
drifted off when I was an older boy, messed up the bells. So this scene
This
originally was going to be shot outside in a field somewhere, but then just logistics, we just couldn't make it work. So we ended up finding this location in the church.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think we originally had blocked, at least in when we talked about it, I think she was meant to be more facing him, so
Mm,
the lighting on her face, I mean, we were super crunched for time. I wish I could have gotten a little bit more around. It just felt like this made more sense from a blocking perspective. Um, yeah, I wish I could have sorted that out a little bit
mm.
better,
And
but
this
yeah, and it
may
was
have
also
never
meant to be
happened.
more stained glass kind of light on their face, but we just felt like that wasn't the right
Yeah.
the right thing.
And this was May, had never acted before. I thought
Mm.
she did really well. She was really great.
Oh, well, I'll see you
And
later.
we had a whole other beat in the
Okay.
story, which we ended up cutting out. Where there was the kind of the tape idea, and then there was also this Mother's Day card, which was the original opening of the film,
Mm.
where we first introduced Sam. He's in this in a shop buying this card, but again, sort of as we were in the edit, we realised it was the same beat, so we ended up
Mm.
cutting it out
Yeah.
completely.
This blocking here we figured out during the rehearsal. I had a little FX3 and
Mm.
I was just like, messing around with frames and I felt like this was kind of the nice way to do it is with him in profile there a little more in shadow and then Father Frank getting a little bit more of the daylight on him. Um,
Yeah, again, we cut out quite a bit of it. There was much more back and forth in the scene between them. There's sort of this battle of wills.
yeah.
But we ended up just, with a short. I think like the original assembly of the was about 45 minutes. So we had to, do a lot of chopping. But
Yeah.
yeah, this was sort of, this rolling of the cigarette and the backstory of it was, well, the priest and the guy did know each other and did have this back and forth. And
Yeah.
it's like, I'm going to roll my cigarette. I'm going to put it down. He says, you can stay, but I'm going to roll my own cigarette things.
Yeah.
So it was just this little back and forth. And again, like at the end of the scene where you see that Sam's listening in again, I just remember
That
as a
was a
kid
nice
going through.
reveal.
Yeah, and I remember as a kid hearing all these adult conversations, and I was just, it was very much a seen and not heard kind of situation. And you're hearing all of these things, but no one's ever telling you about, what they mean or giving you context. You're just
Mm.
hearing all these adult conversations about this big, traumatic thing that's happened. So I just remember a lot hearing, people's discussions and yeah, I love this boat race. Oh, my
This,
phone.
yeah, we kept coming. I mean, we did, there is lighting there. It's not, we didn't just shoot this time of day. This is all, you can see Sam there back in the bottom right corner.
Yeah.
More of that kind of front lit thing we were trying to do. And this was a scene too where, again, the only other real silhouette in this was when we see Irwin sort of in grief up in his room. And then now we're back kind of where Sam is essentially engaging with the same feeling, trying to really save the silhouettes to make them more meaningful. And
Mm,
yeah, and juxtaposing a really locked off camera with something that feels extremely organic here in a second. Um, and talking about, just like visual language is like we have these super clean lenses. How do we really go the opposite direction? So we just use a cheap, lens baby um to create the look where he, in just a second here, right? Yeah. That's just
mm,
with a lens baby, like a few $100s or less thing that we put on the camera to give it that kind of like dreamlike effect as he's entering the world of memory of his mother.
mm. And this was too. I didn't want to use much music in the film, so again, like when we did use music, it needed to have a real effect, and so they were great. Jack, who learnt the piece of music, that's actually my wife, and the reason is she can play piano, but also she works for free. So, so we had her in as to play the mum. But again, this musical moment, and we also wanted to cut it short, so you just start to feel like it, and then it kind of it's all pulled out, so you don't get that sort of emotional release, sort of very sort of intentional. And I just love this bit at the end where his hand just goes over to the empty seat. Oh, God, it gets me every time.
Mm,
Um, but again, the other practical on that was that that piano was so out of tune. So when they were playing it, there were just
yeah.
whole notes. It was so out. So it was really, and we just played a guide track that they sort of mimed to. They knew what the keys were, but gosh, it was actually practically it was quite difficult
Yeah.
to make it work.
This is one of my favorite shots that Caleb grabbed. I mean, one of my favorite shots, and Caleb happened to be the one who got it when I was
Yeah.
not there. So yeah, I was jammed in a tiny, tiny little uh, half closet kind of there to get these shots, and then Caleb, I think, was right next to me, getting that kind of like over
Mm,
the shoulder. And this was mostly lit by the fluorescents that were down in there and kind of like pumped up. There's a little extra tube scraping the wall right in front of him into some muslin just to give a little bit more on his face. Um, but making it still feel like it's in the world of that kind of like dingy green fluorescent.
mm. And the thing, the choice around the music and the tape was also because the other thing that often happens is when someone passes away, one of the first things you forget is the sound of their voice.
Mm.
It's less now because there's video on our iPhones and everything. But I remember at the time, and it's one of the first things you lose is what someone's voice sounds like.
Mm.
I just love this moment from Chris, this little sequence. He doesn't say a word. It's all just on his face. It just, it's so good.
Little FX3 mount on the camera. We had some kind of lens issue, and I wasn't able to get it as wide as I wanted there, but you know, I think yeah, something with the rental house. I don't
We were
remember.
pushed for time because there were
Yeah.
really the time restraints on working with children too on set. They're very set hours, and we didn't want to like go over that. So that was.
Mm.
I remember that night we are trying to get the shot, and also Jack had to be wrapped, and yeah.
So yeah, we did a lot of the lighting here was there was actual work lights that we were using to light it. We had some vortexes out the window pushing through. We had a little M40 moonlight coming through that window of the church. But we mostly, I'm pretty sure we basically just like lit this space according to how we knew we wanted to block it and then let everything just
Mm.
like we just ran it.
Yeah, pretty. And it was also such a big scene for Chris that I
Mm,
didn't want it to be two stop starting. I remember like
yeah.
let's just set it so he can do kind of what he wants because he had to get to like some quite emotional places. So I just didn't want it to be. Well, I just wanted to kind of be a bit of a set and forget. Here's the environment. Now let's see what works
Yeah.
uh, and what feels right.
Samuel?
There's some real cars
You alright,
passing
man?
by outside. This is
Oh
not
yeah.
shot on a stage.
The other shot that we didn't end up putting was the wide exterior. We remember
Samuel?
you put the light on the cross right
Yep.
up the top.
Yep.
Yeah, it was a great shot, but we didn't use it. And again, like this scene was quite long, how it was written, and we had a really long version of it, but then we ended up just snipping to just to kind of move through
Yeah,
it.
get into the meat of it.
Yeah, um,
This is probably
but
our
yeah,
other
just
biggest lighting setup just because, we had to do all this exterior work just to get to this place.
oh, and that crucifix, well, we couldn't find one, so we had to get one made. It was 3D printed by yeah, and it was because I wanted a really big, imposing. I didn't want it to be the little one because we found all these little guys, but we needed something really big. But so at the very last minute, we friends at Formation FX printed it for us and painted it. They did an incredible job. I've still got it actually; it's still right behind there.
It's
I haven't
awesome.
been able to get rid of it. So but yeah, you needed that kind of big imposing thing for Chris to be able to interact with, and so it felt like this, like a conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, and in the original way it was written, he would sort of have these outbursts, and then he would sort of have this regret because he was this guy's fighting with it. Do I have faith? Don't I have faith? It was this real seesaw kind of battle internally with him, uh, which we ended up kind of taking most of it out just to get the time down. But that's sort of how it originally played out.
Yeah, I think it's
Um,
stronger for its how you ended it. I think it gets it.
yeah, I think a lot. It's this was also it was sort of the aliens, sort of Ripley versus the alien kind of shot I always had in my head. Like kind of two
Let's
come.
see here.
come at each other.
Give her back. Give her back.
And then there's this moment here where, and cue, teardrop. Dude, your backlight just got that teardrop perfectly, Bjorn. The choreography was
The little
incredible.
work light that I put down there.
Yeah, totally on purpose.
I mean, it actually was, but yeah, because I knew he
it's
was
one of
going
my
to get
favorite.
down
This is
there.
one
I
of my
just needed to
favorite
give him,
shots.
yeah.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite shots. Just
Mm.
that where you just see the so good. And again, just rating all my family videos for
Yeah, I was
these
going to
little.
say, did you have all that footage already, Paul? Or did you go out and shoot that
Yeah,
stuff?
no. Oh, actually, what this the beach stuff we did, we shot that just at
In
the
her blue
beach
dress.
locally, and then I put it through a some kind of cheap iPhone filter, a VHS filter. But then everyone was cool. Like they all gave us their family photos. So Murren, she gave us her family family videos, and also Jack's parents that we could sort of draw from it. Again, everyone was super generous on this project. And again, yeah, just the sort of sparing use of music. I think there's only really 3 times I think where we use music. Beginning, that little bit in the middle, and the sort of end bit, and then the sort of for the credits. So that you feel it, I guess, when it does come in. I just love this, and then she just disappears. Yeah, nice little moment for me.
Mm.
And then lighting exteriors.
Yeah, we pushed a little bit of light, some vortexes through that window to give them a little edge there, and played off of an existing sodium vapor and a few other little pieces there. But yeah, it was a little quick shot. Some day for night work. And then I love this. This is cool. This like sort of split screen world where you get to see father and son experiencing, you know, kind of the
Originally,
same
we had
thing.
the diopters on this, right? But then we couldn't.
Yeah.
Jack, it was late at night. It was right at the end of the shoot. Jack was kind of struggling to kind of find the emotion of it, and so we ended up having to kind of split the 2 shots in post to line them up. But originally, originally it was to try and do it in real time, but then it didn't quite pan out. So.
And we had to shoot this scene before we shot the scene with him at the cross. So I remember feeling very nervous about the wiping and the.
Yeah, because we only had one. We only had one, and it's like, is this stuff going to come off?
Yeah.
So it was, yeah, we've already splattered it before we've got the shot, and yeah, so again, the joys of low budget when you don't have repeats of things, or so the art department did amazing cleaning it off, getting it all off. They're incredible. Again, it was this sort of cornstarch, and Jess and her team did great.
Yeah, this is mostly available light too. I think we had some neg and some diff, but nothing major.
And then the one time we got to use the dolly.
Yep.
I think it was the only dolly shot.
This is the only dolly shot in the whole thing.
Yeah, which feels satisfying.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, I mean, this was one of the. I remember those are the 2 places that we talked about really moving the camera. Were here and the piano scene.
Yeah. And then again, just music feels right to have it at the end. And God bless Margaret and the people at Ashgrove Anglican Church who allowed us in, which was amazing. And then credits. It's always the millions of people it takes to do even the short. Like it's always astounding how many people it takes. It's the ultimate team sport, filmmaking, and
such great people on this. Just worked so hard, late into the night, early in the morning, doing more jobs than they should do. And yeah, this was
And yeah, it was like 4 days, 4 day shoot. We
yeah,
really needed a fifth day because we had to drop a couple of scenes, which in hindsight, like one of them in particular, I think we did need, but anyway, it doesn't matter. Is what it is. But you know, that's always because there were a number of scenes that we cut. I think four or maybe five scenes that didn't make it. So if I could do my time again, I would have not shot those scenes and shot I think there's one or two scenes that I would have liked to have shot that we didn't even shoot because we cut them
yeah,
when we were looking at when we were on the board on our photo boards and oh, I have to kill something. What are we going to kill?
yeah,
And then yeah, so the shop one, which was the original beginning of the film, we couldn't actually get access to a shop, so we had to make a shop in a op shop, in a like a charity store. But then it's never quite felt real, so we
yeah,
ended up just not using it. And then also, it would have been a good start, like if it was a feature version. But I think for a short, you just kind of
yeah.
wanted
I
to
just needed to jump into it.
need a jump into it, you know.
We also
So
had to cut one of my favorite kind of like like blocking and looking shots
mm, mm,
of them in the
when they're
sacristy
getting the
getting ready.
priest,
Yeah.
getting the priest ready, and then people coming and going, and I mean, I think I might end up releasing those deleted scenes. Just they're ungraded, and but at least to see what those scenes would have been. And I think because that was the other point too, when we decided not to move the camera, we decided to move the actors more. But then the scenes where we really did move the actors and
Actually
have
move the
choreography,
actors.
we ended up cutting those things for story because they didn't we didn't need them for the story so much. So the things you learn. But I know I mean, I think for me, my biggest lesson on the whole project was really when it came down to the writing of like really
Mm,
interrogating the scene. Does the scene really need to be there? Is it really driving the narrative forward? Um, and making sure that that every scene earns its screen time. So that's why I
mm.
think we shot some scenes that probably we could have not shot, and that really needed more interrogation at the script stage. So I think that was probably my biggest um, lesson. Less on the filmmaking side, but more on the writing side for me.
Mm. Yeah. I think the power of economy of visual language, like keeping things really simple.
Mm.
And then how special camera moves do feel and really just being prepared. I mean, being
Mm.
it's something that's always important to me, but I feel like the level of preparation that we were able to put into this, I felt like we were able to go into every scene knowing exactly what we were trying to do. Like everybody, you, me, the crew, everybody knew exactly what they were trying to
Mm.
do. And I think without that level of prep, we wouldn't have gotten through as much as we did.
Yeah, yeah, and that's for me. It's the prep that you can do where you don't need a lot. Like
Yeah.
you need better access to locations, but it's the stuff you don't get to do when you're doing documentary so much, and definitely like on commercials,
Yeah.
time is so you're running and gunning quite a bit. So yeah, I definitely want to repeat that process on next film for sure. I found it just getting it all in your head and just out of your head really, and so that you can see it. Super helpful. Preparation, yeah. Because then it frees you up when you're shooting it.
Yeah.
Well, I certainly enjoyed the project. I always love working with you, Bjorn. You always say
Likewise,
yes.
Paul. Absolutely. I'll say yes before I even know
And
what it is.
yeah, and it's nice to have it now out in the world. That's the weird thing about we shot it 2 years ago, and then it goes off on festival run and gets locked away basically for 2 years. Uh, so it feels like it's never coming out, but now that it is out, it's nice, and then it's up to the audience to decide if what they think of it. But certainly enjoyed making it, and yeah, now just nice to see it out in the world and have its life out in the real world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Excited for people to finally see it.
Mm. All right, well, I think that's us. I think that's a wrap.
Yeah, that's a wrap. I'll see you later, dude.
Yeah.
Bye.